And we're back for Rooted in Sports Monday, our last Monday for the foreseeable future because, as we've announced, the NFL season is here. It starts Thursday, so we'll be moving to Tuesday. So this is the last Monday for a while. Swan, what's going on, brother?
Can't call it, man. What's going on with you, bro? Can't call it at all, man. Just happy, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, last Monday night before we switch over to Tuesdays for the NFL season, but definitely excited about this episode and some of the things we're gonna get into, man.
Yeah, and like I said, pretty straight to the point. Two really good topics. Obviously, one, we'd be fools to not give our week one picks, right? To not tell you guys what to look forward to and give you guys some of our predictions. So we'll definitely cover that every single game down to the nitty gritty. And we just had an iconic somebody. I don't know. I heard in the news like some iconic female athlete just retired. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me who it is.
Yeah, I had a few rumblings too. Maybe we once we get into the intro, I can go real quick and look it up and see who you talking about here, man. You know what I'm
saying? All right. Well, how about this? I'll start the intro and I'll buy you about 20 seconds to figure it out. How does that sound?
Bet. We sound like Family Feud now. That's all I need is the 20 seconds. Get into the phone.
Hello?
I think I figured it out.
You figured it out?
I think I figured it out.
What you got for us?
Does she play tennis?
Oh, her.
Yeah.
She has a sister. She used to wear beads in her hair.
Yeah. Okay. From Compton.
From the city.
You talking about Serena now?
Yeah. Oh Lord,
man.
Well, I have a little fun, but as you guys know it, iconic tennis player, female athlete, trailblazer, Serena Williams is finally calling it quits after what is it, 26 years?
26, yeah. She She went pro at 15. She's 40. She'll be 41, I think. So yeah, 26.
Yeah. Most of my adult life, right? Right, because I'm about 30. But I guess just a quick recap. She competed in the U.S. Open, which actually caught me by surprise. It wasn't something probably me or a lot of people expected. But she was able to make it. We just talked about her being 41 years old. She made it to the third round of the U.S. Open, and then she lost. I want to say to the Australian champion. Don't make me chop the girl's name up, but she was from Australia. I don't think anybody can pronounce that girl's.
And mind you, Serena just recently had a child as well. I don't even think the child is one yet. I don't believe, but she's not too far removed from having a child.
Yeah. I mean, I know she definitely took some. Hollywood kids 5 months ago, we turned around, they two. I'm like, so I don't know. Our daughter looked pretty good. Yeah, so I don't know. They play around. But she lost in women's singles. All right, in the third round, and then they gave us a little throwback action. She competed in women's doubles with her sister. Anybody that knows, anyone that has watched or covered tennis at all, her and her sister used to dominate doubles in the U.S. Open.
And Venus is a legend in her own right.
100%.
I don't think people give her the flowers that she's due as well. Venus is a legend in her own right.
Oh yeah, and I liked what Serena said during her retirement speech and stuff like that. She says, "Without Venus, there is no Serena Williams." And I was able to have a really good interview on the Break Room Breakdown with a tennis aficionado named Miles David, and he said it all the time. He says Venus walked so Serena could run.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
So
I think if anyone who hasn't seen the movie King Richard that
mhm,
just came out not too long ago, I would advise you to not just sports fans, but just movie fans in general, fans of Serena and Venus or their dad, you know. And it's kind the movie is kind of it's obviously it's called King Richard. It's about their dad and how their dad just kind of, you know, kind of led the way for them, how their dad had this vision for them and, you know, all the
mhm,
struggles that they went through. But so if you haven't seen it, watch that movie and you'll really kind of see um their dad's leadership and the way he kind of raised them and the dream and the vision he had for them and how even at a young age he kind of it was almost like he was kind of instilling in them that, hey, you know, you could see it was almost like he was telling Serena, like, hey, like, you're the greatest and you're gonna be the greatest. And I recognize that. But you gotta
mhm.
let your sister open this door so you can take off, you know. And once again, that's not to slight Venus because once again, Venus is a legend in her own, you know, in her
Right.
own right. But obviously Serena um is in my mind the greatest female tennis player ever and one of
Maybe.
the greatest athletes ever. Like I almost want to take that female word off of it because
Yeah.
it kind of makes it seem like she can only be compared or classified against other women when I think what she's done in her sport can be very favorably compared to any athlete in any sport. So she's one of the greatest athletes to ever play any sport.
Agreed. Agreed. 100%. And I think even just the way of her going out, said a lot about her character. She went out swinging, and it was just to me, it was a great farewell for a player that's been mulling retirement for like 2 to 3 years. I mean, she's been pseudo retired, low key,
Yeah.
right? Hasn't been playing as many tournaments, doing more family time, and naturally so. She's getting older, and she's probably
Hmm.
focusing a lot more on business and once again her family. So
As she
it was
said, she
just
wants to evolve from tennis. She doesn't even like to use the word retire. She's just evolving from tennis.
and that's I think
So
that's a
it's
that's
an
a beautiful.
appropriate term.
It's an
Hmm.
appropriate term. We get these athletes all the time that they've dominated in that particular area so much. Whether it be her or even when we look at a Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant
Hmm.
retired and wins an Oscar for a short. And obviously, he
Exactly.
doubled down on things he was doing in business. So they want to take that next step and focus on different things. And I think that Venus is already, not Venus, Serena has already started to build the foundation business wise and her multiple ventures and things that she has going on that she'll be able to make that jump effortlessly. But I will say this before we talk about where we place her an all-time athlete. Spew off a few of let's talk about a few of her accomplishments. Let's give a recap of some of the things that she did in her career.
So she's won 23 Grand Slam singles titles, which is second all time as far as women, the second all time to one Margaret Court. She has 367 major victories in majors matches, which is the most by any woman in tennis history. She also has 73 career singles titles, which is the fifth most among women. Her and Venus have 14 doubles titles, which is second all time among a women's combo. She at 15, I believe it was, she was the second at 15, she was the second youngest female player in history to win a major. She also has four Olympic medals. And I mean the list can just go on and on. These are just some of the accolades that she has on the court. That's not to even begin to describe the impact that she's had on the game of tennis because I think her and her sister to an extent, but
100%.
especially her, she has really, you know, made tennis, dare I say, she's made tennis extremely popular here in America, you know.
100%.
And then just her just as an idol and a role model, just for a lot of younger black girls to see her and her sister at a young age out there and they're embracing their culture. They're out there with the bow rats and the bees just slinging around, and they've influenced millions and millions of younger black girls to not only believe that they could play in a sport that was for the most part predominant, yeah,
predominantly, yeah.
but believe that they can come from anywhere, because these two girls came from Compton, from one of the roughest neighborhoods in America, and these two girls made it. So they were really role models and icons in the fact that they showed millions of young African American and women alike that it doesn't matter where you come from, but hard work and dedication. And hey, you can be here just like me. Look at some of the just a couple of the younger girls now of color who are making names for themselves. Look at Naomi Osaka. Look at Coco Gauff. Look at Sloane Stevens. All of these are women of color. All of these women are able to play this game of tennis and probably drew interest from seeing Venus and Serena. And now they're able to bust through doors that Venus and Serena opened for them. Now it's feasible, it's cliche, it's not looked at in a different light that you have these women of color in the sport and finding success in the sport and making names for themselves at a young age.
And I'm glad you brought up the cultural impact of what she's done. Because obviously we can look at her resume on the tennis court, and some people are, because we'll say she's the greatest tennis player of all time, which I've heard many people say. At whether, and I'm talking about between both male and female, greatest tennis player of all time. But
she has that argument.
She has that argument, but people will compare her to a court who has more titles than she does, or a Roger Federer, right? Who some people consider the greatest male tennis player of all time. But when you look at that cultural impact, to me, that's what takes her over the top and really truly makes her one of the greatest athletes of all time. Because if we were to look at, it's kind of like if we look at basketball, we look at Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan doesn't have the most championships, right? There are people that are more, but if we're talking about the impact, the dominance and the impact that he had on the NBA, that is what kind of takes him over the top. And I think that Serena, it kind of mirrors that in her specific lane. So when I was looking at top 5 athletes of all time, I mean, man, I ain't gonna lie, it was tough. Some people that I wanted to make it didn't make it. But I'll just read off my top 5. You can tell me real quick, yay or nay, whether you agree with me.
Okay.
One, I had to show respect. Obviously, I'm becoming a big hockey fan, and I had to do my research on this one. But I put Wayne Gretzky at 1, and that's because he's probably the GOAT of all GOATs. He's dominated his sport on a level that no other.
You can argue he was the most dominant player in his sport of all time. Right. 2, I put Michael Jordan. 3, I put Tiger Woods. Right, and I just spoke about cultural impact. Let's be honest, black kids weren't watching golf before Tiger Woods. Watch this. Even though he ain't claim us. Even though Tiger didn't claim us. Even a couple years ago, what was that, year ago, 2 years ago, when he came back and won a major after all he had been through, even though he doesn't necessarily claim us, as a black community, we still felt like one of us, like he won. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? You can't hold us back, even with his own
with all the nonsense. Look, we'll still stand behind him, right? Tiger Woods at 3. Got to put Muhammad Ali at 4. Obviously, what he did with boxing and not ducking anybody, and going to jail,
and the impact outside of the ring.
And exactly things he did for civil rights. And then 5, I put Serena Williams. I mean, because you can argue not only is she the greatest tennis player of all time, but she's the greatest female athlete to ever compete in any sport, right? So that's how I ranked it. I kept it simple. I mean, I easily wanted to throw in like a Tom Brady or somebody for football, but I just couldn't find any place for them over any of these individuals.
I can't necessarily disagree with your list. If I were to throw a couple names out there, a couple maybe honorable mentions, so to speak. I mean, obviously Tom Brady does have that argument. However, I think what differentiates the athletes that you've named, maybe outside of Wayne Gretzky, but what differentiates the athletes that you've named from Tom Brady is the impact that they've had outside of their field or their sport or whatnot. And
True.
so I can see why you have some of those others over him. Another name that I would throw out there, call me crazy. I mean, I think Jim Brown deserves some consideration as well. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about a back who was really, really dominant during his era. You know, when he retired, he had majority of the rushing records, even in a short period of time that he played. And then he had a huge impact off the field as well, as far as being, you know, kind of a civil rights leader and, you know, speaking out and whatnot himself. So I think that's another name maybe you can throw in there, but I can't argue with your five at all.
And I give you that about Jim Brown, especially when you're talking about cultural impact. That I'll give you, and I think he's probably the first. This is rude sports. I'll say it. I think he was the first black man to sleep with a white woman on screen. You know, background lounge. So I don't know. He may just get that. I don't know, man. So he definitely did something. Was a trailblazer. But okay, but no.
And real quick, another stat that I just thought was a phenomenal stat when it comes to Serena Williams. Only one other woman in history, which I think it was Martina Navratilova. They're the only two women in history to hold all four, to win all four consecutive majors in a year. And Serena did it twice. So they won all four majors in a year. Serena's done that twice. So I just think that's just to show, just a measure of how dominant she was. And I mean, really, truly, to see her in her prime years, she couldn't be beat. She, to this day, I think she probably has the hardest, fastest serve I've seen, maybe male or female. Like when she's serving the ball, when she hits that thing, and you see it 140 on the mile per hour screen, like you can't return that.
And you see videos of her displaying her accuracy too. Have you seen those? Where she's hitting bottles, and I'm like, man, this is impressive. So yeah, she definitely was one of a kind. You know, and outside of being very ladylike and beautiful, she was.
Yeah, she did it with grace.
She did it with grace, but she was a physical specimen, right? Like,
very imposing.
This girl was on swole. You know, I'm like, you wasn't getting
but still beautiful though. Still beautiful.
Look, I'm gonna tell you this. Out of respect for that woman's husband, I won't go on. But early 2000s, I'll just say this: she had the game on lock.
Listen, right? Can the church say amen? Okay.
Early 2000s, yeah. So, yeah. But no, much luck to her in retirement, and just not retirement or her evolution, how she's evolving. But much luck to her in her future endeavors and everything that she's going on. Hopefully she gets to put more of that time into her family and really she's enjoyed it. Yeah. You get. I think sometimes we get spoiled as sports fans. We get to see these iconic, great players perform in their sport, and we get spoiled, and we don't realize that these people sacrifice a lot to give us that product for as long as they do it. Right,
a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she's done, and we got some people coming behind her. LeBron will be done soon, and Tom Brady.
Both of those guys obviously put themselves into the discussion as far as all-time athletes. If they, whenever they decide to retire,
right. But they've given us a pristine product for 20 plus years. You can't ask for more.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh, and another athlete I just throw out there, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as well.
Oh, of course, we got to give him respect. Yeah, we do. Lou Alcindor.
But all right, let's get into some of this football though. Shout out to Serena, much love, God bless, happy retirement. Let's get into this football.
You see, he excited. Look, I'm the football. He's more excited than I am. Let's get to it then. So obviously week 1 is here. We got a lot of fun matchups coming up, right? 1 on the schedule and 2 in, by the way, Rooted in Sports. We just did our fantasy draft yesterday. People were talking a lot of trash. I'm just kind of getting ready, get my shopping list together. What I'm gonna buy, groceries. Maybe I'm gonna use some of that money for gas. I'm just prepping for it. But
Look,
let's focus on.
look, man. I tell you what, man. As you know, I've been known to win a fantasy league or two. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
I've had years where I've won multiple. So I'm just
mhm.
saying. However, I'm not gonna lie though, and not to get too far off topic, but in our fantasy league, we got some guys who drafted really well. We got some really good teams, so it's gonna be really competitive.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely.
But
So
we're gonna go ahead and
what we got?
we're gonna go ahead and get into it. And I figure we'll just start with the Thursday night game, just to open up the
Mhm.
season. So we'll just start real quick. We got Buffalo Bills at the Rams. Obviously, the Rams are our defending champions. Um, Actually, though, the point spread has the Bills favored by 2.5 in this game. I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. What do you think about that point spread? And well, first of all, who do you think will win the game? And do you think what do you think about that point spread? Once again, that's Bills minus 2.5.
Minus 2.5.
Yeah, so the
I mean,
Bills are favorite 2.5.
favorite 2.5. Yeah, I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
okay, so I won't completely disagree with it. Because I do believe the Bills are the better team. I think they have the better defense, and equally, if everything is running properly, equally as good, if not better, offense. And I obviously I don't think either of us would disagree that Josh Allen is the better in this matchup,
Yeah.
right?
He's
Right.
probably you can argue he's the best quarterback in the league right now. One can make that argument.
Exactly, fair argument. But one thing I look at, I think it's two variables we have to see kind of how it works out, and these will be the two things that kind of determine the outcome of this game. One thing to remember: Tre'Davious White is not playing in this game, right?
Mm,
He's going to start the year on PUP because remember he tore his ACL last year, um,
mm.
and he's not only their best corner, but probably one of the top 3, top 5 corners in the
One of the
National
premier
Football League.
corners in the league. Yeah,
Premier
absolutely.
guys, right? Can do everything, can move around, could literally all world corner. He's not going to play. So you get the rookie that they drafted from Florida, Kyer Alim.
Hmm.
Is it Kasir Alim or Kyer Alim? Hope
I
I'm
know,
pronouncing
yeah,
his
I
name.
think it's Kyer.
Kyer. Which by
But
reports
but
he
you
was
heard a lot
very
of good things from him coming into the draft,
yeah,
coming out of college
yeah.
though. A lot of good things about him.
Which normally you do from Florida corners. They usually come in pro ready. Outside of Vernon Hargreaves, most of these guys come in able to play some ball. Um,
Right.
so yeah, so he's going to be thrust into action, and he's going to have to cover Allen Robinson, a feisty veteran that has been successful everywhere he's been, and obviously we've seen Cooper Kupp kind of push his name up the charts as being one of the top tier wide receivers in the league. So that big matchup. Now on the Bills side, we're looking at what's the positive for them. Granted, they're missing Tre'Davious White, but they just added, to a defense that was already number one. They just added Von Miller to that pass
Von
rush,
Miller. Hmm.
right? And a weakness for the Rams, which was even last year, before they lost this guy, they lost Andrew Whitworth. Who was
Hmm.
who was still, even in his older age, was still one of the better tackles in the league. So you lose him, all right. You enter a younger guy. I forget. Look, I don't even know the guy's name. Right. That's just how insignificant some of the guys they have on their front line is right now. But I could see this Buffalo front seven really causing hell for Matthew Stafford, and so it's gonna be really up to Sean McVay to move things around to get the ball out of Matthew Stafford's hand very fast. Maybe they can establish a running game with Cam Akers. I know he's healthy now,
Who'll be back?
so yeah, he'll be back, and Devery Henderson. So they have some options, but the offensive line is definitely going to be a weakness for them, and but they're going to have to find a way to attack that secondary without Tre'Davious White.
Well, first of all, speaking of offensive linemen, your favorite teams signed a lineman today, and I'll get to you and your thoughts on that when we get to them a little later. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, as far as for me, so I think I made this known that this is like a Super Bowl preview for me because coming into the season, I think the Rams will get back there, and I think the Bills will be the representative out of the AFC. So I think this is a potential Super Bowl preview. Like I said, the Bills are favored -2.5 right now. I think this will be a pretty decent game. However, I'm gonna go with the LA Rams in this game. The game's in LA. I just think they feed off of the momentum. They'll be getting their rings that night. The banner will be going up. It's the opening night game of the season, Thursday night, and I just think the energy and the excitement that'll be in that building, I just think they'll kind of feed off of it. I think Trey White not being there is pretty
It's big.
big, and yeah, I'm just gonna go with the Rams opening night. If I have to give a score, um, well, obviously, I mean, I have them women. I think they cover too. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go Rams. I'll say 26-20. I'll say 26-20 Rams. Um, yeah, I think they get a stop on the last possession or something. Aaron Donald once again causes havoc or something. They get a stop on the last possession, and I think they win it 26-20.
I'm
Everybody
gonna.
riding the Bills. It's the safe preseason pick. It's a good preseason pick too, Bo.
I'm
Shout
gonna
out to Bo,
go.
man.
Yeah, he's always tuning in and chiming in. I'm gonna go. And by the way, he gave me a fantasy trade. I'm not gonna take it because I got two defenses already. Another story for another day. Um, I'm gonna go Bills. I'm gonna go Bills 28-24. I think it's going to be a fairly competitive game, but I think you're going to go off of who has the better defense. I like the Bills' defense better, and one thing that
So you take the Bills and the points.
I'll take the Bills and the points.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you something. Obviously they're missing Tre'Davious White, but we cannot discount they might have the best safety tandem, one of the best safety tandems we've seen. Well, not even secondary as a whole. Let's look at the safety tandem with Micah Hyde and
Poyer
and Jordan Poyer. This might be one of the best safety tandems that we've seen in league history. Like they're that good. And last year,
that's a big take now.
I mean, they've been good for years, but they haven't. I mean, obviously they play in Buffalo, which wasn't always a hot topic, or people weren't excited. People are just probably starting to get excited about seeing Buffalo play, but when looking at the trajectory of this team and what Sean McDermott has done with them, I think last year spoke volumes how they really established dominance, not only in their division, but in the league. And they put the league on notice like, hey, we're next and we're not laying down for anybody. Now granted they had the blunder, against Kansas City and, let Patrick Mahomes get that last minute 10-second score. It took 10 seconds to score.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they lost in overtime. But this is a team that
far too much.
Exactly. But this is a team that it truly believes that they're the best, and they're really and mind you, they did a lot of what they did the back end of last year in the playoffs without Tre'Davious White. So at this point, they're more accustomed to playing without him. When he gets back, he'll just be a plus. So while it'll hurt them obviously against a Cooper Kupp and an Allen Robinson, I think they have the pieces. Not only in the secondary, but on defense as a whole to kind of overcome that. So I'm going to go 28-24 Buffalo Bills.
And I mean, I'm just rooting for them this season because as a franchise, they've been through so much in the playoffs. Even going back, 20, 30 years ago now, to lose 4 consecutive Super Bowls. Like, they've been through so much as a franchise, man. And I don't know, man. And then last year to see what happened last year with 13 seconds left. I mean, I'm rooting for them this year. However, I think the Rams win Thursday. But all right, we're gonna move on. Got a lot of games to get to here. Let's go New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons, a divisional game, week 1.
Okay.
At the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, the Saints are favored here. They got the point spread has the Saints -5.5 at Atlanta. What do you think about the point spread? And I think we can agree on who wins this game, but what do you think about the point spread?
I think it's too low.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, I'll take the over on that point. Yeah, I think it's going to be
especially if Michael Thomas is available week 1, which it looks like it looks like he's going to be available to go week 1. Without him, I pick him, but
Yeah. Now, okay. Now, yeah, I think it's going to get ugly just because they will have Jameis Winston back, who
Hmm.
from all reports and even what I've seen in the preseason, he looks his sharpest. He looks probably some of the best that he's looked in the league. Period. He has a lot of pieces. Let's say they have so many weapons that they can bring Michael Thomas along. He doesn't have to play week one.
Slowly, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, you got Chris Olave, who's
And
a
they
touchdown
signed
machine.
Jarvis Landry as well, if I'm not
They
mistaken.
signed they signed Jarvis Landry. They still got Traquan Smith, who's a good number 3, number 4 option.
Hmm.
And obviously you're getting an Alvin Kamara who didn't get suspended. I know everybody was bracing for
Not
his
yet,
pending.
anyway.
Not yet, right? It could still happen, whether it be a year from now, right? But they're getting Alvin Kamara back, and remember they traded for Mark Ingram, the back end
They
of
did.
last season,
Brought him back. Hmm.
right? So they have a great nucleus on the offensive line. I mean, the offense period, the offensive line. Actually, I mean, I mentioned them by blunder, but the truth is they have some question marks. I know they have her starting at left tackle. The guy they drafted, Trevor Penning out of UNI, got hurt, so he could
Hmm.
miss possibly the season. So little, they lost Teron Armstead to Miami, so obviously that's going to be a big loss in itself. But outside of that, they have what I say a very consistent defense, one of the more consistent defenses over the past 3 to 5
Agreed.
years, right? It's been really, really good. They're returning all their starters for the most part. They traded Chauncey Gardner Johnson, right? But they still got Marcus
Hmm.
May and they signed Tyron Matthew,
They did.
right? So when looking
Signed
at this
both of those
match,
guys in off season. So
exactly, signed both those guys in the offseason. Hopefully Marcus May doesn't. I know he ran into some legal trouble. We'll see what happens with that. But still got Demario Davis at is it Demario Davis, linebacker used to play for
linebacker,
Baltimore.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. But
Um,
they have a yeah, go ahead. Jets.
I was just gonna say, man. I was just gonna say, as you said, I mean, the Saints have been a really, really, really consistent defense for quite some time. I think we talked about them when we were doing our divisional breakdown, our rooted in
Mhm.
football divisional breakdown. This Saints team is easily a double digit win team. We're talking
Yeah.
10 to 12 wins somewhere up in there easily.
Right.
As long as they can, stay healthy or whatnot. I think that this is a tune up. Atlanta, I mean, you might see them come out and, they might run a little trick play or something, get a little surprise here or there, hang around for a quarter or
Well, they're
two.
gonna well they're
But
gonna
I
they're
think
gonna fight.
ultimately, yeah, they may fight, but I think ultimately, I mean, they're just running into a superior team. Like I said, the point spread has the Saints 5.5. I think that's too low. So I would take the Saints and the points. Um, if I'm gonna give a point total, I'll say 29-16 Saints.
We literally went off because I literally had the Saints winning 30-17.
30,
That's what I
okay,
had it.
30. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah, pretty close. Um, Once again, Atlanta will fight. They still have a few great players. They absolutely drafted some young kids. AJ Terrell on defense is
oh yeah.
is
Another
like
another guy who's putting himself into that top tier cornerback
woo-wee,
conversation. Yeah.
top 5. I mean, he was looking
Hmm.
like a young Revis last year. That's how good he looked.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, they have
And
some
I'm
pieces with
interested in
Davis.
Drake. I'm interested in Drake London and the season he'll
Oh,
have. I'm interested to see if Kyle Pitts can, take that next step and use some of that momentum he built toward the end of the last season and really put himself into maybe that top 5 tight end conversation because I mean he's very gifted. He's a freak of nature. So I mean they got some pieces there. It'll be interesting also to see with them this year. Obviously, I think Marcus Mariota will go in as a starter. I know something you've mentioned as well as far as with Desmond Ritter, who's looked really well during the preseason. Don't be surprised if they get off to a slow start or something. Don't be surprised if 5, 6 games into the season you see Desmond Ritter, come in and they just really try to see what they got there in the kid. But
yeah,
as for this game, week 1, I think we both agree. You said 30-17. I say 29-16. We both got New Orleans Saints favorite here. So Saints and the points for my betters. Take the points.
and we're both taking the over.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
all right, we're gonna move on to a game that's near and dear to my heart. We got the San Francisco 49ers at the Chicago Bears, my Chicago Bears. All right. So they have the Niners favored here. They got the Niners minus 6.5. Um, Obviously, the Bears are my team, but I am a realist. Um, I do think that we'll drop this game. Um, I'm gonna let you go though and see how you feel about the point spread and be honest. You know what I'm saying? Don't just give it to me straight, no chaser. Okay, what you think about this game, man? Once again, they got the Niners favored by 6.5.
I agree. I think it's right on the nail. It's gonna be a bit of a fight because I've expressed time and time again what I think about Matt Eberflus as a coach. So he's not going to
Mm-hmm.
put a product or put a team out there that's just going to go out there and lay down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually more. I'm more. I'm more fearful for the offensive side of the ball for Chicago than I am for the defensive side. I think the defensive side will
I
put
can
up
agree.
a
I
fight.
agree.
And offensively, I think that they just don't have that surplus of weapons. Even though what we've seen, Justin Fields has taken the next step in his development. Um, David Montgomery becomes a better running back every single year.
He
Cole
does. He
Komet is
does.
Cole Komet is growing in his role, and
He
I
is.
mean, hell, and Darnell Mooney has shown us the last 2 years. Hey, I'm a fucking stud. I'm not just a guy. I'm a stud, and he's made us put respect on his name. So
Mm-hmm.
they just don't have enough. Kind of similar to what we just talked about in Atlanta. A
In
few
Atlanta.
good
Mm-hmm.
pieces, a few good pieces there, but they're playing a championship caliber team. The Niners are a championship ready. Their team ready to win now,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's where it can get a little chippy. Now I will say this: a lot of it, depending on how that the Bears staying in the game to me will hinge a lot on Trey Lance's performance. There are a lot of question marks about
That's who I was going to mention. Mm-hmm.
what he's looked like. He's struggled in the preseason. There's some that even said third string quarterback Brock Purdy from Iowa State has looked better than he has at times.
I've heard some rumblings out of their training camp that he's really having trouble with his accuracy. And then I don't know if you've seen him, but you know he has that funky delivery anyway.
Always like that. That's what I'm crazy. Did you read? Did you try to get cute and rebuild your throwing motion? Because it didn't always look like that, even when he was at
Yeah.
So
I
I
don't
don't
know
know. It's
what it
just
is, but
ugly.
it looked like sidearmish. I don't know, but
It's
yeah, reports have been that
yeah,
he's had some trouble with his accuracy.
yeah. So he's been struggling. So that could be what turns the tide of this game and gives the Bears
And
a
and
chance to
and
stay
not
in.
to cut you off, but they did decide
Yeah,
to go ahead and re-sign Garoppolo,
and
and
that's
that
huge.
could be telling. That could be very telling.
That that's absolutely huge because they're not gonna let their love for Trey Lance's potential squander an entire season because this is a team that
Mm-hmm.
the championship window is very much so open. Jimmy
Mm-hmm.
Garoppolo, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Trey Lance was supposed to be an improvement upon Jimmy Garoppolo. If he's worse,
Mm-hmm.
we're going back to Jimmy Garoppolo. And I
And
said
if
this
nothing else,
before
they
this,
know that they can win with him.
you
If
can win
nothing
with
else,
Jimmy
they know
Garoppolo,
they can win with him. Hmm.
and they love Jimmy Garoppolo. They love Jimmy in that locker room.
They do. They do.
They love him.
I'm gonna say obviously I'm a Bears fan. Um, I think because of the things you just said about Trey Lance, not saying that he may not ultimately be successful, but I think Matt Eberflus and the Bears defense find a way to maybe kind of rattle him a little bit. In this his first start in his first full season as 49er starting quarterback. I think they find a way to maybe rattle him a little bit. Maybe they force a turnover or two, and that'll be just enough to keep the game respectable. I mean, obviously, like you said, the 49ers they have a championship window, they have a championship roster. They're clearly the better team, but I think we'll be able to kind of find a way to, fluster Trey Lance a little bit.
Mhm.
And that might help us get, one or two easy scores to kind of keep it somewhat competitive. But although I am a Bears fan, I am a realist. Um, Offensively, we just leave a lot to be desired. I don't think we've put enough weapons. Like you said, we got a few decent pieces. David Montgomery's coming back this year. I do like Cole Kmet. I do like Darnell Mooney. But as far as the receiving core, I don't think we've put enough pieces around Justin Fields to be successful. And that's even as much as I like Darnell Mooney. I think on a good team, he's your second or third best wide receiver on a good team. Now we're depending on him to be a number one and draw that number one attention. And then we're dependent on guys, I think what Equiminius St. Brown, and we're depending on guys to really step up and take that next step. And I don't know. I do see a struggle for us offensively. So with that being said, I am taking the Niners and I am taking no points. I'm going to go. I'm gonna go Niners. I'm gonna go Niners. I'll say 21-13 49ers.
Man, we just I don't know if we share a brain, but I actually had the Niners winning 24-14. Right?
Okay.
But don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you see the Bears make it a little than what we think it is. Not because I think the Niners
I agree.
are bad, but who knows? Trey Lance could have some blenders. I could easily see the Bears getting a turnover on the defensive side, maybe scoring, because they do have some impact players. They still do have what's his name?
Still got Roquan.
Eddie.
We still Robert Eddie Jackson. Robert Quinn had kind of he hit the Fountain of Youth last year. I think he had 15 and a half sacks or something. So Robert Quinn kind of found the Fountain of Youth last year. So we still got some pieces defensively. So yeah, I mean, I think it'll be competitive, but I am taking the Niners. I am taking the points. Yeah, 21-13. So my Bears.
Yeah.
All right.
It'll get better. All right, so what we got next?
It will. Another divisional matchup here. We got Pittsburgh going to Cincinnati. I don't know. First of all, I don't know if you heard, but apparently today, Pittsburgh did name Mitchell Trubisky a team captain and a starter for their team. So Mitchell Trubisky will start on Sunday.
Which is fair.
Yes. Now, apparently, according to the point spread, they have the Bengals. And I don't know. This might have been before this might have been before they announced Mitchell Trubisky as a starter. It probably wouldn't have mattered either way. But they have the Bengals favored -6.5. Bengals 6.5 for a divisional game.
Yeah.
Granted, they are the AFC champions. They are coming off a Super Bowl berth. But what do you think, man? Bengals 6.5. What do you think? Who wins this game, and what do you think about this point spread?
Well, I think you have to go the Bengals based off of some of the issues that Pittsburgh has in their secondary. A lot's going to hinge on what they can do, the pressure they can put on Joe Burrow 7 with TJ Watt and I mean Cameron Hayward and some of the other pieces that they have. But remember, the Bengals, they did what most teams aren't able to do. They attacked their weaknesses and actually improved. They signed Ted Karras. They signed Alex Kappa. They signed La'el Collins.
Right?
Yeah, to be their new right tackle. So they didn't just sit there and take it and say, okay, we're going to try to improve and with the same guys that we have. They went out there and they did something about it. So if they could be at least an average offensive line, I think this could. I agree with the point spread. And once again, I can see it being even more because just some of the weapons that they have are so unbelievable. Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd, probably he is what he is at this point, but we could argue that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are nowhere close to their ceilings players.
I think you can argue with Cincinnati. I think you can argue that as a trio, they may have the best receiving core in the league as a trio.
They have three legitimate, and I know Kevin and Rooted in Sports will argue me on this, but they have three legitimate number ones.
Tyler Boyd was their number one so long ago.
Before they drafted T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd was their number one. As a matter of fact, Tyler Boyd became the number one wide receiver while
Over
AJ
AJ Green.
over AJ Green while he was still there. So that
Yes,
shows
sir.
you how good and how dependable he is. And then T. Higgins comes his rookie year, he's essentially becomes the number one. And then they draft Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase becomes the number one. But T. Higgins hits 1,000 yards himself, and Tyler Boyd is not far behind with 800. So this is a very effective trio. And we're not even talking about what Joe Mixon is giving you out of the backfield. It's just a dangerous team, and they're confident. So I'm interested to see
and a pretty solid defense as well.
And I'm gonna tell you something.
We know how you feel about Hendrickson, and we know how you feel about
coming
Hendrickson.
back. They're all coming back.
Yep.
They're all coming. No one left.
Jesse Bates,
like they have
some guys.
Jesse, and then they drafted the kid Dax out of Michigan, who I love, who's a nickel / safety, and they're gonna plug him in. But you talk about Trey Hendrickson, most underrated edge rusher in the league. Sam Hubbard was looking like a stud in the playoffs. Right. Yeah, so they have some really good guys on that defense, and their defense could take another jump and become a top 10, maybe top 15 type of unit. So I think this is warranted. I would agree. I would take the Bengals. I would take the spread. Was it 6.5?
Yes.
Yeah.
Will, everything you just spewed off is 100% true. No arguments there. However, this is a divisional game, and those division in that division, these games become knockdown, drag out fights. If for no other reason, I think that point spread is a little high simply because I respect Mike Tomlin and what he's able to do as a coach, and I just think he's going to have those guys ready to play. And once again, I think something to keep an eye on, though. TJ Watt did get hurt, and he hasn't practiced for, I think, about a week or so now. So that's just something to keep an eye on. But if TJ Watt's healthy, if he's able to play, I still think that they have a really good defense. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they signed Minkah Fitzpatrick
to an extension.
I think they have a really, really good defense.
They do.
And as far as them naming Mitchell Trubisky the starter, I think as long as Mitchell Trubisky just doesn't turn the ball over, because they have not to the level of Cincinnati, but they got a few solid pieces offensively as well. You know what I'm saying?
This Pickens kid.
Yeah, he's looking like the real deal. Obviously, they got Deontay Johnson, they got Claypool. My boy out of Alabama, his name's leaving me now. Running back.
Najee Harris,
you know what I'm saying? Who I think he's going to have a huge year this year. I think Najee Harris is going to have a huge year this year. So I think 6.5 is a little high. I am going to go with the Bengals, though. I think the Bengals win. But if I was a bettor, I would probably take the Steelers in the points. But as far as a game score, I'm going to go Bengals. I'm gonna go Bengals. I'm gonna have a surprisingly higher scoring affair. I'm gonna go Bengals. I'll say 27-23 Bengals. But as a bettor, if I'm a bettor, I take the Steelers in the points because this has a knockdown, drag out fight written all over it to me.
I'm gonna go, and I can see it being close for a short amount of time, maybe a quarter or two. I'm gonna go 34-20 Bengals. I think it could be a fist fight for a good amount, but the Bengals have so much talent. I can see them pulling away. And once again, I'm talking offensively. We're not even talking about maybe them getting a turnover on defense or whatever and taking that back. So, yeah. So I'm rocking with the Bengals all day. I just think they're the better team, even though this is a divisional matchup. Right now, they're the better team. They're younger, and they're probably more confident. They don't have the better coach. I give Mike Tomlin his credit. He could put sugar on shit and make it look like chocolate. But the Bengals,
and that's a 1:00 Eastern start. That's going to be a great game. So that's a good game to check out there.
That's a what these 10 a.m. games. Okay, we got Cleveland, Carolina.
I get you. Do you want to get to that one? Do you want to go to that one?
Well, you jumped to a 1. I'm saying we still got these 10 a.m. games.
Oh, well, I'm just going down the list, bro.
Oh, popcorn.
I was
You
just
going popcorn? What? Okay.
yeah,
What game you got next?
I
What
was
game you
just
got
going
next?
down the list here on my list here. So I got we got oh well, bro. Look, 1 Eastern is 10 for you because you're on the Pacific. So we're doing all of the one. So we doing all the
I'm
early
I'm time challenged.
games.
All right. So what? So all right. So what game you got
uh,
next?
next I had we got Philadelphia at Detroit. Um, and obviously the Eagles are favored here. They got the Eagles -4 here. The game is in Detroit. We both have spoke on how much we think the Detroit will be better this year, how much fight they're going to give. We both have spoke on how Dan Campbell has kind of won us over, especially after that initial press conference. But he really has these guys fighting and playing hard and believing. Um, they got a little talent around them, you know. DeAndre Swift should be coming back from injury. They signed DJ Chark. The tight end Hawkinson is solid. They obviously they drafted my boy out of Michigan, Hutchinson. They drafted him, so I mean they got some pieces there. I don't know if anyone's been watching them on Hard Knocks, but really awesome content if you haven't checked them out on Hard Knocks. So
Very
go back and
feisty.
check that out.
Very feisty. Very blue collar team.
They are. Games at home, like I said, against the Eagles. Eagles are favored -4. What do you think about that?
Okay, so I'm not gonna say 4. I think I'm gonna definitely take the Lions and the points. Uh, just because I think it's gonna be closer than what people think. I'm gonna obviously I got Philly at the end of the day. I think it's gonna be a 20-17 affair.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing about this Detroit team that they showed last year is they're gonna fight you tooth and fucking nail. They're not gonna lay down. They're not gonna let you do whatever the hell you want to do. And they've gotten better and they've added talent. And Philly is a team that even though they have all these talented pieces, they are still figuring out. They still have to figure out how to put everything together. It's not all figured out, you know. And there's still question marks as far as what Jalen Hurts can do as a passer, you know. So I got the Eagles 20-17, but this is going to be a knockout, drag out, blue collar, like East Coast, Midwest, just mashup. It's gonna be fun to watch though. For our real hard body football fans, I think Detroit's gonna be a lot better on defense. It's funny, anybody that watches that's watch Hard Knocks. I don't know if you know, but the young kid, the young linebacker that's been growing, he's their starter now.
Mm.
I want to say Rodrigo. You know, he's from Oklahoma State, 6th-round pick. He's their starting weak side linebacker now. You know, he pushed Gerard Davis a few years ago was their 1st-round pick. He pushed him off.
I was just gonna say, I was just gonna say he was a 1st rounder, if I'm not mistaken.
He's a 1st rounder. And then, ironically, you got Anthony Alonzo. Hopefully, I said his name right.
And
Florida,
Anzalone, yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Play for the Saints, right? But he is the starter at inside linebacker over there. Then you got Aiden Hutchinson and Charles Harris as your starting defensive ends, and Jeff Okudah, who they drafted top 5 out of Ohio State. Yeah, mm-hmm. He is looking at, if I'm not mistaken, he's pretty much grabbed one of those starting corner spots. And they had a kid, I don't want to mispronounce his name, African last name, but he's their other starting corner. So they got some pieces on defense, and they got some stuff. And then offensively, you know, I'm a big fan of Amon St. Brown. He was a USC kid, underrated as hell. I don't know how he fell to the 4th round. But he was probably one of the best young wide receivers the back end of last season. The best wide receivers, period. He was damn near uncoverable the last 4 or 5 games of the season. So Detroit hopefully is going to be
feed off of that.
Yeah,
I was just saying, hopefully you can feed off of that, and they signed DJ Chark, who's a very viable option on the other opposite him. You know, so he could take a little bit of attention away.
Yeah,
and Hawkinson. So
and Hawkinson, if he can stay field. So this is a team of cast-offs, of guys that, you know, fell in the draft. This is a team, a roster full of fighters. So if Philly thinks they're going to come in there and just do whatever the hell they want to do, it's going to be a long day. So
And I
I got
love
it.
their coaching staff as well. They're loaded with a
All
bunch of
fighters.
former NFL guys, from Mark
Yeah.
Brunell to Antoine Randall to Deuce Staley.
Oh,
Just
I'm gonna tell you this: when I seen that they had Brew as their quarterbacks coach, I was hyped. I said they
yeah,
got Brew, they got Brew, they got Aaron Glenn, Deuce. These
Aaron
are
Glenn.
all
Yeah,
these are all guys that had to overcome odds, lack of size. Maybe they weren't as talented as their peers, and they carved out really
and
successful
they all. I was
careers.
just going to say they all etched out some really solid careers in the NFL. So that was just great to see. I do agree with everything you said. I do think the Detroit Lions will be a better team. I think they'll have a better record than they had last year. I do think they'll be a tough team and a tough out for a lot of NFL teams to play them. When you come play Detroit, you're gonna have to put your chin straps on.
Yeah,
With that being said, though, I think that the Eagles have been hearing all offseason, especially since they made some of the moves they made, the AJ Brown move and everything. I think the Eagles have been hearing all season that, hey, the time is now. The pressure is on. I think Jalen Hurts been hearing, hey, the pressure is on. The time is now. And although I think they'll have a stretch where they will run across a few struggles, although I think there is still some questions, and rightfully so, about Jalen Hurts and his accuracy and him being able to win a game from inside the pocket.
yes,
I just think that in this game, I just think they're going to come out and put forth a hell of an effort. And I think that this one might get a little ugly, this game. So I'm actually taking the Eagles and the points. I'm going to go 27-10. I think Jalen Hurts throws 2 touchdowns. Maybe he runs for another one. I think Miles Sanders comes back and he surprisingly has a really impactful game. I think you might see him get, 5 or 6 catches out the backfield, maybe 60, 70 yards rushing. And he might have 120 or so all-purpose yards. And I think their defense steps up because Philly has some guys on defense as well. They got
they
some,
do.
and I love both of the guys they got from Georgia, Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean.
Nakobe Dean. Yeah,
We talked about cornerbacks. Big Play Slay is, I think, probably the most underrated cornerback in the league to me. I don't think people talk about him enough.
no, they
And
don't.
from Detroit to Philly, I mean, he's just been a stud. I don't think people talk about him enough. And yeah, man, I think for this game, I think they just come out and kind of send a message. So I would take the Eagles and the points. I'm gonna say Eagles 27-10.
Okay, fair enough. Eagles
Um
27-10. I'm gonna go 2017, but we'll see what happens. All
20 to
right,
17 Eagles. Okay,
20
okay.
to 17 Eagles. Okay, what you got? What's next?
Next up, another divisional game. This one I almost has as a you pick 'em. We got New England at Miami. Um, the point spread, they have the Dolphins favored by 3. So you got the Dolphins -3. I think that this can be probably as even matched of a game as we'll get all week one. Um, Two teams in similar situations. I think when we were doing our Rouge and Sports segment, I think we had both of these teams probably somewhere between that. I think we said for both teams we could see them having a down year and maybe getting 8 wins, or we could see them having a phenomenal year and getting up toward that 11-win plateau.
Mm.
I think this is a really even matchup. Obviously, we know the additions that Miami has made, the big splash, getting Tyreek Hill. Um, yeah, man. What do you think? We got the Dolphins favored -3. Who you going with, and are you taking the points?
I'm actually on this one because I'm looking at foundation, and I feel like New England has the more established foundation of what they want to do. Obviously, they're still figuring things out on the offensive side of the ball. They haven't, if I'm not mistaken, they still haven't named a true offensive play caller. Maybe Matt Patricia, maybe somebody else. So that's the
Have you
hurdles
ever
that
seen? I've never seen it.
ever. I've never seen it a day in my damn life. But this is Bill Belichick we're talking about, so he's gonna do whatever the fuck he wants to do when he's gonna figure it out. Um,
And who's going to
but my,
challenge him?
and who's gonna challenge him? No one's gonna say anything to him, right? But when I look at Miami, Okay, so I'm not. I don't. I'm not the type of guy to take the cheese. Um, it looks really good on paper, but they fired a damn good head coach in
Yeah.
Brian Flores. A damn good head coach that has literally did what no coach, not even Nick Saban, could do in Miami. He
Hmm.
changed Miami into a winning culture,
He did.
and we can't discount that, and we can't make it seem like it's something we can just do away with.
That
So
anyone could have came in there and done.
exactly right. So it's just so many unknown. We don't know what Tua will be at quarterback. Granted, they have the weapons at wide receiver with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And then obviously they got my boy Cedric Wilson from Dallas, and they still got Mike Gesicki, and they got Chase Edmonds at running back, and yeah.
Hmm.
So on paper, the Dolphins look really good, but I've said this time and time again, they could be this. They could easily be this year's biggest disappointment
Hmm.
as a team because people are already putting them in that slot. But the truth is you took away a guy that really held them accountable. And this new coach, Mike Daniel, who I like, I like him. He's fun to watch. His interviews are funny, but is he gonna be able to push and get the most out of his roster in the way that Brian Flores did? Remember, they won 8 of their last 9 games to end the
They
season.
did. They started
Like
like 1-7 or something,
they won
and
eight
like you
of their
said,
last.
won 8 of 9.
So anyone that thinks that this team is like this is the same
And
team,
that's tough. Like we can't understate that. Do you know that's
that's
tough to do?
it's harder to win games the end of the year than it is the beginning of the year because by then teams
Especially after you start that terribly. By all accounts, you're thinking, okay, this season's over. 1, 2, 3, Cancun. You know,
exactly. So I could easily see this not working out the way people think it's going to work out. I think it's still going to be close. I'm going to take New England 23-20. But I think that they make the few plays, whether it be defensively, and obviously you got Bill Belichick. Mike Daniel has to coach against Bill Belichick, who we already know is light years ahead of him as far as football IQ and strategies and things of that nature. So it, I don't. I believe too much in Bill Belichick to think that he's going to put a sloppy product out on the field. They're going to figure things out. I think we're overblowing a lot of what's happened, but I mean, hell, if they get any semblance, if they can put an average offense out on the field, I mean, hey, look out. They could it be in similar situations they was last year, a 9 to 10 win team.
um, this this one is really a toss up for me. I agree with everything you just said. Um, I this is really a toss up for me, man. I'm really interested to see Mac Jones and his progression going into year two. Um, they did pick up Devontae Parker this year,
Who's looked
who
good from my understanding.
he has, and he showed. I think it was season before last in Miami. He went for about 1,100 yards. Like
Yeah.
he showed that he can be a very capable receiver. Um, I mean, they got Hunter Henry, who I love. They got two capable running backs. I
They
don't know,
got
man.
Nelson. They got Nelson Aguilar.
They got Nelson Aguilar. I mean, I don't know, man. This game is really a toss up for me. Looking at the point spread, you got the Dolphins -3. I would, as a if I was a betting man, I would take New England in the points just because I think that this game will come down to the final possession. Whoo, man. All right.
Go
Like I
ahead,
said, this
go
is
for the
really a you
gusto.
picking for me. Games in Miami. All right, I'm gonna go Miami. I'm gonna say Miami 19-16. So excuse me. I'm gonna say Miami 19-17 because I'm taking New England in the points. So Miami wins 19-17. I would take New England in the points.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I can't disagree. I just think it's going to be a very low scoring, close affair. So
I agree
any of
here.
these teams can come out on top, but the idea that Miami is this juggernaut, they're going to come out of the season and blow teams out by 30, 40. I just don't see it. But who knows? Any given
I don't
Sunday.
either. I mean, the verdict's still out on Tua. You know,
Yeah,
we still
exactly.
need to see Tua be that accurate quarterback that we seen and that we thought he would be coming out of Alabama. And he has absolutely no excuses now because he has
He has the
all the
weapons.
weapons now.
He has the
He
offensive
does.
line. He has the weapons. He has everything, and he has the defense.
Absolutely.
All right, what game we got next?
All right, we got Baltimore against the New York Jets. So Baltimore's favorite minus 6.5. The game is in New York. I'm pretty sure we're going the same way here, but just because I need to hear you, what you thinking here?
Even though I like what the Jets did this offseason, I'm going to go Baltimore. They're
Mm-hmm.
returning a lot of guys. They're getting J.K. Dobbins back.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting Gus Edwards back. They're getting Marlon Humphreys back. They're getting everybody back.
They're coming
Marcus
in. They're coming
Peters
in this season healthy.
healthy,
Point blank. Period.
which is big, and as critical as I am of Lamar Jackson, and some of the limitations he's shown as a passer, right thus far, it could very much so improve. He still was able to lead that team to the number one seed in the AFC before he got hurt. So he's shown that he has moxie and he has a clutchness about him that not many other quarterbacks have. So you got Lamar Jackson. Granted, you traded Hollywood Brown, but they drafted a kid in Minnesota, who I think is going to be pretty goddamn good, a wide receiver. So I mean, just looking at it as a whole, it's nothing I can see with the Jets that I feel like they can really challenge Baltimore and beat them right now. I think this, you said minus 6.5. I could argue minus 8.5. I think that Baltimore is going to beat them by 10 or more points. You can see the running game getting ramped up. Lamar Jackson might go for 100. I don't think J.K. Dobbins is going to play very early, but you can see Gus Edwards and some of the other running backs that they have probably do some things on the ground early on. So, yeah, I'm going to go Baltimore 30-10.
I couldn't agree more. I think this one's going to be over real quick. And then they're not even sure if Zach Wilson will be ready week 1. So they might be throwing Joe Flacco out there.
Right.
Speaking of the Jets. And I agree. I loved the Jets draft this year. I thought that they probably had the best draft of any team. I loved their draft this year. But with that being said, I mean, they'll be competitive. They'll play a lot better. I like the direction they're going. I like the coach Salah, but
I don't think he's their coach. But that's another story for another day.
Oh my goodness.
No, I like him. I just don't think he's the coach to get them where they need to go. But another story.
But yeah, you said 30-10. I'll say 31-10, just to be different.
Just to be different, right?
Just to be different.
So we're taking Baltimore, but we're going. Oh, we're taking the over on the points, right?
Absolutely. I'm going.
Yeah.
If you're a betting man, I'm taking the Ravens and the points. Give me the Ravens and the points immediately. I think Lamar Jackson is going to have a huge game with everything that's going on with the contract talks. Don't be surprised if he throws for maybe 208, 210. He runs for another 120 or something. Right. He has over 300 and some total yards and maybe 3 or 4 total touchdowns. I think he's going to go out there and act a fool.
It could definitely go ugly.
Yeah, so, yeah, Baltimore big, Baltimore in the points. This is an interesting one right here. Jacksonville at Washington. They actually have the Commanders favored by 3 points. I think this could be a really good game, a really tight game. They got Washington favored by 3, but what do you think?
I got Jacksonville.
I do too. I
got Jacksonville winning this game.
And I think Jacksonville will win by more than 3.
Because you look at this Jacksonville team. First of all, defensively, they've improved a lot. And not only did they sign key guys over the last 2 years, they've drafted really good ones. You guys, Devin Lloyd, the kid they drafted in the latter 20s, I want to say they drafted him about 25, 26. Devin Lloyd is probably one of the more versatile linebackers we've seen come out in a while. He can cover. He can blitz. He can play the run. Just a really instinctual guy. Went to Utah. and then obviously they picked him up in the first round. So he's really good in his own. The kid they drafted number 1 overall, Trayvon Walker. Even though I don't believe he should have been drafted number 1 overall, I love his game. He is
and according to them, he's had a really good camp as well.
He has. He's had a really good camp. But here's the crazy part. I never questioned that. I never questioned whether Trayvon Walker was going to be good. I just questioned, is he going to be number 1 overall good? But I love his stack and shed game. He's going to play the run very well. Right now, immediately, he's going to be a great edge-setting run stopper early in the league, early in his career in the league. But you're putting him across from Josh Allen, who's already improving and moving his stock up as one of the better edge rushers. They signed a kid. Was it Folkway? How you say his name? He's an African name they signed him away from Philly.
Okay.
And they got Shaq Griffin, Shaquille Griffin at corner. They drafted a corner out of Georgia just a year ago, right? He's their starting, and they got a Syracuse who I liked, who's getting really good as well. So they have pieces offensively. We know what Trevor Lawrence is. They signed Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram apparently looked good this preseason. He's their starting tight end.
He has some talent, but we'll see if he can really fully reach that potential. Because I liked him, but in New York, he had one really good year, and I don't know.
Well, I'll say this: if it's one thing I know about Doug Peterson, he can get the most out of his tight ends. Yeah. That's one thing he can do offensively. He can get the most out of his tight ends. So don't be surprised to see Evan Ingram have a career year, a guy I've been critical of. But wide receiver wise, you bring in a Christian Kirk, who's not reached his potential yet, who I think his best ball's ahead of him. You bring in a Zay Jones, a guy that's kind of had a career renaissance because people thought he was having off the field issues. People thought his career was dead. He revives it in Oakland, and now he got a pretty solid contract there.
Really good deep threat.
Really good deep threat. They still have the consummate pro in Marvin Jones. I mean, he's a guy you could put in any locker room. He's going to contribute, right? And I mean, it looks good. Then Travis Etienne, who had a lower leg injury last year, body injury last year. He's back
and
healthy.
They still got James Robinson as well, who proved himself to be more than capable in the backfield as well.
Exactly. So when looking at this matchup, I'm going to tell you this: when looking at this matchup, I think the fact that Doug has an understanding of who Carson is and what his tendencies are, he'll be able to give that defense some insight on some things that bug Carson Wentz that get him off. Mind you, he wasn't just a head coach; he was the offensive play caller. He worked very close with Carson Wentz. He understands who he is as a person and as a quarterback. So don't be surprised to see some of that payoff.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's big. So I got Jacksonville winning 24-14.
Yeah, I'm with you, bro. And obviously, I was a believer in Carson Wentz, especially.
I fucking know you was.
I was a believer, and I mean, he's made an ass out of me, just point blank, period, man. I think that. Don't be surprised if a year from now he's a backup. You look up and Carson Wentz is just a career backup. He's not. I mean, there are worse quarterbacks, but I don't think he's the answer for the Commanders. I got to get used to saying the Commanders. I don't think he's the answer for the Commanders. I don't see him really leading them, or if he couldn't get that Indianapolis Colts team to the playoffs last year. If he goes out there 2 weeks in a row and throws up 2 eggs, especially in week 18, I guess, against these same Jacksonville Jaguars, when they had an opportunity to get into the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, it's once again, the Commanders are favored by 3. I'm taking Jacksonville all the way. I think they come out, and I think they look fairly impressive as well. So, I'll go Jacksonville. I'll give it a 24-13 Jacksonville. I think they come out with a really impressive effort. I think Trevor Lawrence looks pretty impressive.
And let's not forget, Chase Young will not be playing in this game. He's on PUP. He will miss the
He
first
won't.
4 games. That's a big loss for them. And
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville has improved. People forget, who did Jacksonville sign at right guard to be their right to all pro player? They signed Brandon Scherf from Washington,
No.
right? So they
Yeah, it just gets
solidified.
worse and worse.
It gets worse and worse. They solidified their offensive line. They added great defensive pieces, and offensively, they really built around Trevor Lawrence. So I'll be honest, and you know me, I grew up a Cowboys fan. I wasn't always, I was never an Eagles fan. I always hated them because they were the division rivals. But Doug Peterson, he's a winner. He's a
Yeah.
winner. He had that one bad season, but the truth is Doug Peterson, for a majority of his start of his career as a head coach, has won and been in the playoffs. So I don't see any reason why he can't give this team, with the talent that they have, the same exact chance. So once again, Jacksonville, I'm taking them 24-14. You're taking them 24-13, and we're gonna take
We're taking
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
Yeah, 100%.
Point blank. Period.
Point blank. Yeah.
Uh,
So what's next?
Cleveland Browns at the Carolina Panthers. Whew, and this should be a
You
good
know
one,
why?
obviously. And speaking of, the Panthers are favored by 2.5. Obviously, we know the biggest storyline here is Baker Mayfield, now the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers after spending his first 4 years with the Cleveland Browns. And we know how the breakup, it wasn't too kind. But now here he is in Carolina. He's won the starting spot, and now he gets the opening weekend at home against his former team. What you thinking, bro? I know who you're picking, but what you thinking about this point spread?
You said Carolina's favorite negative 2.5.
2.5. Yeah, 2.5.
Well, I think that's about accurate. It'll be a close game.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland, obviously, they don't have Deshaun Watson. Anyone knows me, I feel like they have limitations, even if they have Deshaun Watson. But I could see this as a 17-14 point affair with Carolina winning. They're still going to be working through some of the nooks and crannies, working through some of the kinks with Baker Mayfield taking over as quarterback. Granted, he picked up the offense fast, but I mean, you're not going to master that thing in 4 weeks or a month or anything like that. You're not going to learn and just get this chemistry with some of these guys with a DJ Moore or a freaking or a Terrence Marshall or a Christian McCaffrey. You're not going to Robbie Anderson. You're not going to master your connection with these guys in a month. So it'll be a process. But defensively, both of these teams are formidable. On the Carolina side, I'm a big fan of Brian Burns. I think he's becoming a tier 1 guy. And they drafted they drafted Brown, the big defensive tackle out of Auburn, about a year ago. And he's a stud in himself. They still got Shaq Thompson, and in their secondary, which is completely loaded with Henderson, C.J. Henderson, the corner they got from Jacksonville, who was a first-round pick. They got Dante Jackson at LSU, who they re-signed, and then they got J.C. Horn.
J.C. Horn should be coming back. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So they have a very high-impact secondary, complete with Xavier Woods at free safety and Jeremy Chin at strong safety. So defensively, they'll be formidable.
I love Jeremy Chin. I love Jeremy Chin.
I love Jeremy. So they have some very phenomenal pieces, just to kind of round out that defense. Offensively, they have pieces as well. I just think it'll be a work in progress getting Baker Mayfield on par with some of those wide receivers. And then Cleveland, they're not a lay down on defense. You draft Newsome at
Northwestern. Myles Garrett.
Yeah, you got Myles Garrett, who could any year could be defensive player of the year. He's just that damn good. They still return Jadeveon Clowney, who's a proven run stopper, and he can get you anywhere between 7 to 9 sacks himself. And then corner wise, they got Ward and Newsome. And then they're getting the kid they drafted at LSU who showed promise. Grant Pitt is looking like he's going to have his best season. And then they have the guy, your Notre Dame guy, who I've been in love with. And it's the only
screw up his name.
That's the only African name I know how to say. Jeremiah. It's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That's the
Yeah,
only. And it's just because
that's
I
no
was
question.
so excited. I felt like I wanted Dallas to draft him, but uh, it's going to be very close. A very very close game. I just see Carolina edging them out. Um, Cleveland offensively, you got was it
Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett starting. You know, there's some question marks there. They don't have a lot of weapons receiving wise. Amari Cooper, Ngaku, but Ngaku has struggled in his career. I mean, and then you're going to have to depend on that run game. But once again, Carolina is very much so here for that run game. So yeah, I'm gonna take Carolina. I'll take Carolina. I'll take the points. And I think it's going to be a 17-14 affair. Very close.
I think it'll be close as well. Um, I think I'm gonna go with the Cleveland Browns because
Whoa!
I do think they'll find some success running the ball, and I think they'll kind of slow the game down and maybe kind of keep Baker Mayfield in that offense um, off the field. Um, like you said, I mean, you do have two really nice, really formidable defenses. However, Carolina Panthers, they did lose Hassan Reddick, who led them in sacks last year. I think he signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, as a matter of fact, but they did lose him in his 11 and a half sacks, who led them in sacks last year. Um, yeah, I think Cleveland Brown just slows this game all the way down. I think they'll do whatever they can to not necessarily put the ball in Jacoby Brissett's hands. Although I do like Jacoby Brissett, I do think he's a really solid guy who could spot you 2 to 3 games. Unfortunately, they're going to need 12 games out of him, and that's where the struggle comes in. At. But I think in this game, I think just as ramped up as Baker Mayfield may be, and just as ramped up as he might get the Carolina Panthers, I think this Cleveland Brown team will be, and that defense will be just as ramped up to play him. And I think their defense is pretty solid. You're right. Cleveland does have some questions on offense, namely starting that quarterback. But like I said, I think you're going to get a real steady dose of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And I think they slow this game all the way down, and I think they pull it out. Um, I'm gonna. It's gonna be an ugly one. I'm gonna say. Actually, I'm gonna make. It's gonna be a 1 point game. I'll say 17-16 Cleveland. So yeah, I guess I'm taking. I guess I'm. Well, no, I guess I'm taking Cleveland. I guess I'm taking Cleveland in the points. 17-16 Cleveland.
Some folk always got to go against the grain. They can't
You know
follow the
I.
program. Yeah, I
You
know you
know I
do.
do, man. You know I do. All right.
All right, what we got next?
Moving on here. You got the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. I think this is the largest point spread all week here, actually. They have the Colts favored -8. Colts favored -8. The game is in Houston. Obviously, we know the Colts, they signed Matt Ryan this year. You know how I feel about them. I told you I think they are my. I'm not picking them to get to the Super Bowl, but they are my sleeper
No
Super Bowl
chance.
pick in the AFC. I really like this team. I really like the signing of Matt Ryan. Obviously, we know what Jonathan Taylor can do. They got Michael Pittman, and the defense is solid. I really like this team. But 8 points is high. But what do you think? Colts
Uh,
and the
I
Texans.
mean, I think we're pretty much on par. The Texans are still rebuilding. They
Hmm.
still have a lack of talent in certain positions. The Colts are essentially a championship ready team. They added
I
Matt
think so.
Ryan. Um, Paris Campbell has came back, and he's looking like he's going to be an effective weapon for them this year. Jonathan Taylor's going into what year 3
Hmm.
of his campaign. They still got Naheem Hines.
Hmm.
They signed running back from Denver. I always forget his name. Played in Houston last year. Small running back. I'm forgetting his name.
Um,
Oh, another story for another day.
go ahead. It's gonna come to me
Yeah,
too. Go
that's
ahead.
gonna come to me too. I'm forgetting his name. But they have a surplus of running backs. Wide receiver wise, Michael Pittman is taking the next step. They drafted Alec
Not
Pierce
Lindsay.
at a
Not Lindsay. Is it Lindsay?
Philip. It was Philip Lindsay. Yeah, it was Philip
Lindsay.
Lindsay. There
Yeah.
you go. They signed Philip Lindsay. But yes, they have everything defensively. They got corners. They got safeties. You know, I think Shaquille. You know, Shaquille Leonard might be the best pure linebacker in the National Football League. Granted, he's a little banged up, but he should play sooner rather than later. I don't know if he's going to play in this game. We'll see what happens, but
And they have Stephon Gilmore now as well, if I'm
they
not
have
mistaken.
They have Stephon Gilmore, even though he's probably on the back end of his prime, but he's still going to be effective for them. And in front seven wise, they got Yannick Ngakoue, and they have the kid that they drafted out of Michigan last year, who they're hoping defensive end, who they're hoping can take the next step in his development as well. And they still got DeForest Buckner, who's a stud. So, looking at this, I like what some of the things that Houston's doing with Derek Stingley. I'm a big fan of Davis Mills. I like what they have in some receiving options, such as Brandon Cooks, and they have some stuff to work with, but it's just not enough. I have Indy 30-14. I think Houston will put up a fight. One thing we knew about Houston last year is they were similar to Detroit. They were going to lay down for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They established a fighting culture. I think that continues this year. Do I think that they can win some more games? Yes, I do. This just isn't one of those games because Indy is just a better team, and then now they have a more experienced quarterback in Matt Ryan that won't, for lack of a better term, fuck things up for them.
Yeah. I think this game might be close for, all the way up into the third quarter, just because it is a divisional game. And like you said, the Houston Texans will fight. So I think this game might be close all the way up into the third quarter. But I think Jonathan Taylor kind of wears them down, and you'll see toward the end of the third and into the fourth quarter, you'll see the Colts really kind of impose their will. And so the Colts might have a few struggles here, but I am still taking the Colts and the points. I'm going to go Indianapolis. I'm going to say 20-9. Indianapolis, 20-9.
Fair enough. So we're both taking Indy and the points.
And the points, yeah.
But I'm taking the over on the points because I just feel like it can get ugly.
Me too. I mean, I got them 29. Yeah. That's 11. So yeah, I'm taking the over on the points as well.
Yeah. All right.
New York Giants at the Tennessee Titans. New York Giants at the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are favored. They're 5-point favorites. Titans -5. I think this can be a really sneaky game for them. I've been public in saying that I don't think the Titans will be anywhere near as good this year. As a matter of fact, I think the Colts will win the division. I see them as an 8 or 9 win team. I think the loss of A.J. Brown is really, really huge. And I mean, as you've always said, backs after they run for 2,000 yards,
they're not the same.
They're never quite the same. And I think now they already had a huge workload on Derrick Henry, but now I think with them letting A.J. Brown go, I think you're going to see that same type of workload, maybe even more, asked of Derrick Henry. And then I know they signed Robert Woods, I believe, but you got Robert Woods coming off of an ACL. So, I mean, granted, he's a very, very, very talented receiver, but there's still that variable, that question of, what wide receiver are you getting coming back off of that injury? So I think this could be a trap game. This could very well be a trap game. But what do you think? Titans -5.
Well, Bash, you talk about trap game. I had New York, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in their foundation of talent. I think Brian Daboll would at least make this offense above average. I don't think they'll be great, but I think they'll be above average. Defensively, they have some juice. Now, I'm a little bit scared. They released, I don't know if you've heard, they recently released Blake Martinez because there was it was a mutual, but apparently his role was minimized in that defense.
Wow.
But
he's gonna sign somewhere and help somebody right away.
Exactly. Blake Martinez is really good. But
I didn't know that.
Looking at what they have defensively, obviously they added Kayvon Thibodeau. They still got Azeez Ujulari out of Georgia as their bookends. I think if they can slow down that running game a little bit, They have the weapons offensively to challenge Tennessee. If Saquon can recapture his 2018, 2019 self, you know, who knows what the hell they can do. That's just Saquon Barkley. They still got
Mm-hmm.
Sterling Shepard. Kadarius Tony
Kadarius Tony.
is
Mm-hmm.
expected to have a much bigger role, from my understanding. They said Brian Dayball came up to him and said, "Hey, we're going to expand your role," and Kadarius Tony was like, "Yes, I'm all
And
for it."
and they have Kenny Galladay as well.
Exactly. So they have weapons, and if I'm not mistaken, they didn't release Darius Slayton.
And Darius Slayton, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people are hard on Daniel Jones. I think the kid has talent. I think he could still be good. He kind of reminds me of Alex Smith, who just played in so many different offensive systems, had so many different offensive coordinators that there was no stability and you weren't able to grow. But Brian Dayball, seeing how he helped develop Josh Allen, who for maybe people forget was a shit show when he got to Buffalo. He was not a great quarterback when he got to Buffalo. He was just raw talent. But I think that there you could see a career renaissance for Daniel Jones, and even if he doesn't become a great quarterback, he could at least become a good quarterback that could help you win football games. So
Mm-hmm.
I actually have this game Giants. I think it's going to be 20-10. It's going to be a feisty one because Tennessee is not a laydown team, and Mike Vrabel is obviously a great coach. But Brian Dayball is really helping to change the culture of this Giants team. I think they're going to be much more competitive this year. And I mean, hell, we could. This isn't me. This isn't a real prediction, but we could look up 10, 12 weeks from now, and they're in the hunt to win the actual division. That's how much talent they actually have on that team, right? But once again, we'll see what happens. But I got the Giants in this game. I think Tennessee got worse. I think the Giants got better.
I'm not gonna go that far with the Giants. I do think Brian
Uh,
Dayball
it's
can
the
kind of
NFC
turn some
East.
things around there. It is the NFC East.
It's the NFC East. Remember,
I,
remember the Eagles finished fourth and won the Super Bowl the next year.
that's true, but I am not as
It's
bigger.
it's a tough.
I
It's tough.
think Daniel Jones literally holds them back. I really do. I think I think that they need to cut bait, cut their losses, and just next year is a really, really, really great quarterback draft. And I think they need to be all in on getting one of these guys next year because, as you said, the talent is there. The talent's all around them, especially if Saquon Barkley can stay healthy. But I'm just not a believer in Daniel Jones. I think he's a career backup. I think he's a guy who could come in and shock you and possibly get a game or two for you. But just as your franchise guy, as a guy to lead you to the playoffs or ultimately what every team's goal should be, the Super Bowl, I just don't think Daniel Jones is that guy. With that being said, as far as this game goes, I think this is going to be a very, very close game. Um, Money line, as far as who wins this game, I'm still gonna go with Tennessee, just because I'm gonna say solely because I have that much respect for Mike Vrabel. I think that I think that they find a way to grit out a win in this game. I think it'll be on a last second field goal. Um, so I would, as a betting man, I would take the Giants and the points, but I think Tennessee wins the game, and I'm gonna go Tennessee. I'm gonna say Tennessee 2017. Tennessee wins 20-17. It's gonna be a really, really tough game. I think Daniel Jones might. I don't think Daniel Jones plays a terrible game, but I don't think he plays well enough for them to win. I just think Tennessee finds a way to pull it out. So yeah, I'm taking the Giants and the points, but I think Tennessee wins the game 2017.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I can agree. We can agree to disagree. I think it's just going to come down to play callers. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I think when I look at the Giants, they're not the Lions or the Texans that's devoid of talent. They just,
Agreed. Agreed.
yeah, they're not a talent ridden team. Like they have talent. So I mean, if anybody's going to turn it around quick, it could easily be them. And once again, I'm a Cowboys fan, so if I'm saying this, like I said, they have something there. But
And something to keep an eye on that I didn't think about until just now. Um, Landry is going to be out for Tennessee. I thought did he tear? I forget what the injury was, but
Harold
Harold
Landry,
Landry.
he tore his ACL.
It was
Yeah, he
okay. It
tore his
was the
ACL last
ACL.
week.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
so that's
a
big.
huge, another big loss for them. And I didn't think about it until just now. But hey, I got to stick with my pick. So at Tennessee, 2017.
All
All
right,
right.
agree to disagree. So who's next?
All right, we got Green Bay at Minnesota, another divisional game. This is pretty much a toss up. They got the Packers -2, but you know when you get to two, it's really a toss up here. So this is pretty much a you pick them. The game is in Minnesota. I think this is going to be really interesting because here we are with Aaron Rodgers minus Devontae Adams. So here we are with him, and he's trying to make the best out of Sammy Watkins and Lazard and whoever these other guys that he has there, who he's already been critical of during training camp. So then we got Minnesota, who isn't devoid of talent at all. Okay, obviously we know Justin Jefferson, top two or three receivers in the league. Adam Thielen's no slouch himself. You know how I feel about Dalvin Cook. You know how we both feel about Kirk Cousins and how he gets a lot of slack, but he's quietly a pretty damn good goddamn
Yeah,
quarterback.
he's good. He's solid.
So yeah, once again, the Packers are favored -2, so it's really a you pick them. But what you think, man?
I think they're going off of history.
Mm-hmm.
Given the Packers the -2, Minnesota's the better team right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially from an offensive standpoint. Justin Jefferson could very well be the best receiver in the league by season's end. He's that good. He's shown himself to be that good, and he's gotten better every single year. He's been in the league. Obviously, he's been only this is going into year 3, and now you're putting him in a similar offensive as what a Cooper Cup was in last year, where you're getting free releases, you're getting screens, you're getting all these open looks, you're getting moved around. So you can see his numbers jump. And mind you, this is a guy that had 14, 1,500 yards last year and double-digit touchdowns. So you could easily see his numbers jump significantly. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, they got Irv Smith, the tight end. And we already know what that combo of Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison can do running the football from that standpoint. And Kirk Cousins, quietly, if you look at his statistics, you'll probably think he was an MVP candidate because he was that efficient.
If you didn't know it was him, if it wasn't his name over it, you'd say, why is he not talked about?
Exactly. So, and then defense, they'll be getting who's a tier one defender when healthy. They signed Smith from the Packers, who came from the Packers. Zadarius Smith.
Preston?
Zadarius Smith.
Okay.
Zadarius. They signed Zadarius Smith. And I mean, hey, they still have a lot of talent. They drafted that safety from Georgia. Was it Lewis Sign? Right, and they're going to pair him with Hitman Harrison. So they got some good things working for them. I'm interested to see what the new regimen coaching wise is going to do. I'm always wary. I was a big fan of their prior regimen. I thought that they was able to bring Minnesota out of some dark days and win some football games. But ultimately, right now, I think that the league is kind of transitioning to offensive guys. So you get this new head coach who served under Sean McVay, and this could possibly be what they need to take the next step. The league is becoming a very offensive-driven league. So I think this could kind of get a little bit out of hand, just because I have so many doubts about what Green Bay can do offensively right now. And from my understanding, through training camp, it hasn't been pretty. It's been frustrating because they haven't had a guy that was going to step up. We were hoping Alan Lazard could be the guy. He still very much so could. But for the most part, everybody's either a finished product and not able to kind of fill that stead, or young and raw like Christian Watson, who they drafted in the second round. So I'm going to take Minnesota. I'm going to go 28-17, right? I think they're going to win this game pretty comfortably, right? Green Bay will be competitive early on, but I think that in the end, the talent will take over.
Green Bay is known to, especially early in the season, they'll drop a game or drop two games. Even in years past, they'll drop a game or drop two games, and people start to wonder. And Aaron Rodgers would come out and say, hey, relax, we got it or whatever, woo woo woo, and then they'll go on a run. Um, I do think that they'll drop this game as well. However, I think vice years past, the Packers are going to be in a little more trouble than they may be willing to admit. Um, I'm with you. I'm going with the Vikings. I'm going to say Minnesota, and I'll give it 23-17 Minnesota. I think Green Bay does have a serious problem as far as their receivers. And as great as Aaron Rodgers is, as great as he's an all-time great, but it's called a spade a spade. He's not that he's had these great receiving cores, but he's always had one number one guy. When you go back to Greg Jennings and to Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams, like he's always had at least one guy. And granted, that's all he's needed to be successful. But looking at this year's Packers team, no idea who that guy is. He's really going to have to spread the ball around. He's really going to have to really trust these guys. And that's why I really didn't like the statement that he made during the preseason about these guys because of who he is and his stature. They're going to need his support.
Right.
Him coming out and saying that publicly really wasn't a great look for me. It really didn't look good on him. And the wide receiving corps couldn't have took too kindly to that, if nothing else, just for their own self-confidence to be able to believe like, hey, I can go out and I can make plays for this team. I can be a viable receiving option for this guy. But for him to come out and say that publicly, I don't know. I think it just put a lot of unwarranted pressure on the guys that he does have. So said all that to say, I'm going to take Minnesota. 23-17. So I guess as a better, I'd be taking Minnesota in the points. And Green Bay, don't be surprised if Minnesota wins this division and you look up and Green Bay they come back to the pack. They're a 8 or 9 win team.
Hey, they had 3 straight 13-win seasons and didn't do anything with it.
They did.
Sometimes
I will say this about this division, though. I will say this about this NFC North, my NFC North with my Bears. 10 wins will win this division this year.
I can see that.
I think 10 wins gets this division this year.
I can very much so see that, yeah.
All right, we almost there. We got 1, 2, 3. I think we got 4 games left. We almost there. Kansas City at Arizona. The Chiefs are favored, -4.5. Really interesting game. When you consider all the things that went on in the offseason with Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals before they finally did, give him his contract, give him his money. They will be without D-Hop for the first 6 games, which I think will be a big loss for them. They did make a move for Hollywood Brown. Then as far as the Kansas City Chiefs, we know that they lost, Tyreek Hill, which is a huge loss for them. But I'm not going to lie. Granted, it was the preseason. But seeing Patrick Mahomes and this offense in the preseason, it literally took away every worry I might have had. I mean, they looked great in the preseason. And I think he was the antithesis to Aaron Rodgers. Instead of publicly, criticizing the guys that he did have, he took it upon himself to spread the ball around. And he was spreading the ball around all preseason. Obviously, we know he has the premier tight end in the league and Travis Kelce. Arguably, you can argue the best coach in the league or 1 or 2 in the league, and Andy Reid. And I think this team, although they're in a loaded division, I think they're going to be okay. But yeah, we got the Chiefs -4.5 at Arizona. What you think?
I think it's going to be. Excuse me. I think it's going to be a little bit further than that. I could see this being 10 points or more. I think Kansas City, you look at them on paper, they're the significantly better team. Kansas City has a lot of question marks. including that quarterback, and they don't have DeAndre Hopkins, who is their guy. Obviously, we love Hollywood Brown, but he's more of a deep threat. And defensively, they lose Chandler Jones, who was an impact as rusher and run stopper.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hate to say this, but I could see
I
this
forgot
being,
about that. You're right. They
yeah. I
did
mean,
lose
these
Chandler
are
Jones
and Jordan Hicks,
and Jordan
um,
Hicks.
and so I could see this being very ugly, somewhere along the lines. And I can say this because it's Kansas City and they've shown themselves capable, but I could see this being 35-10, maybe 40-10.
Mm-hmm.
Just because what Kansas City is doing offensively, but people forget the back end of last year,
Their
they
defense
they were
really
they
came around. Mm-hmm.
their defense really came around. And from all reports, Frank Clark has come into camp lighter, quicker, looking like his old self when he was in Seattle, nabbing double-digit sacks. And then the first round pick that they drafted out of Purdue, George Karlaftis, has looked very good himself. He's already a starter. They brought in a young guy, Nick Bolton, last year at a Mizzou, and they got the other guy, Willie Gay, two linebackers that learned from Anthony Hitchens, and now they're kind of taking the stand and becoming leaders of that ball club. And at safety, they got Juan Thornhill, the kid that they invested a second round pick in 2 to 3 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
they got Justin Reed from Houston, and he has kind of filled that honey badger stand. So they got juice on defense, and offensively they have pieces with Juju Smith-Schuster, Mario Valdez-Scantling, Miko Hartman. Miko Hartman is taking a bigger role than in years past, and they still got Jerick McKinnon as their premier third down back. They have so much to work with. And one thing we know about Andy Reid is he's going to find a way to get it done. So this is a game. Obviously, I think Kansas City will run into some hurdles this year, but this is a game that I think that they'll win by very, very. I'm going to go ahead and go 40-10.
Ooh,
I think this can
man.
get that ugly.
Jeesh. Um, I am picking the Kansas City Chiefs. Um, Arizona made the playoffs last year. I think if for no other reason, because D Hop is going to miss the first 6 games, I think you might see them get out to a really, really slow start, like
Right.
1-5, 2-4, really slow start. I like Hollywood Brown, but I don't think he's a number one. I mean, they got Isabella, and I mean, I think they're going to get out to a fairly slow start. With that being said, I do think the Chiefs win this game. I would take the Chiefs and the points as well. I'm not going to go 40-10, but I mean, Kyler Murray makes a play or two with his feet. He makes 1 or 2 solid throws. I'll go Kansas City. I'll go 28-19 Kansas City. Yeah, 28-19 Kansas City. So I would take the Chiefs and the points as well, but 40-10. But I do agree. I do agree though. Arizona, they might get off to a really bad start, and it may just be too much for them to recover, as the year goes on. And I do think they missed the playoffs this year. Arizona, 7-8 win team.
Right. Exactly. I think they'll take a
And
step
they're
back, especially in that division.
I was going to say there's easily two 10-win teams or more, 10 or more win teams in that division.
In the division, exactly.
Yeah. All right, the Las Vegas Raiders at the LA Chargers. This is going to be a phenomenal game, a divisional game. The Chargers are favored -3.5. The Chargers are. You can argue that the Chargers, top to bottom, may have the most talented roster in the league. Obviously, they made a few moves defensively. They went out and got J.C. Jackson. They went out and got Khalil Mack. Derwin James should come back healthy. On offensively, we know that Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, and obviously Justin Herbert, who could really cement himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year. I think a playoff appearance is probably all he's missing. We got the Raiders on the other end. We know the big splash move they made, picking up Devontae Adams, a team who, despite everything that they went through last year, and they went through everything, they found a way to, in week 18, beat this very Charger team and get themselves into the playoffs. So, a really competitive game between division rivals and a really competitive division. The Chargers are favored -3.5. What do you see for this game?
I don't know why the Chargers are favored. Maybe people are going off of paper. Um,
Really?
I think the Raiders are a better team. They have a better nucleus. They have a better foundation. They have a better head coach. Uh, I mean,
Really?
on yeah. I mean, first of all, let's look at this game in itself. First of all, J.C. Jackson's not playing.
Okay, he's not.
Right. So I mean, who are you going to have check Devontae Adams? Who's the best? Who is the league's best wide receiver at the current moment? Right. Hunter Renfro put the league on notice last year as a
You
slot
know I
guy.
love Hunter Renfro, man.
Right. And Derwin James spoke highly of Hunter Renfro
He
in a
did.
recent interview
Hmm.
on the pivot. And Darren Waller is, I mean, Darren Waller is when
Top five
healthy,
tight end, easy.
top five tight end easy. Defensively, they got Crosby and Chandler Jones as their bookends. They was able to acquire Rock Yassin from the Colts, who was
The
a pretty
Colts.
damn good
Hmm.
corner. They have some solid. They have Denzel Perryman, who they're working on extension for, who made the Pro Bowl last year as a linebacker. The pieces are there for them to really take that next step. And watching them this preseason under Josh McDaniels, you can tell he brought some of that New England discipline with him. He also brought a few of his guys with him, Brandon Bolden, who's been in the league for like fucking 12, 13 years as a backup running back. But this looks like a team that is talented enough and disciplined enough to win football games, and are feisty enough. Derek Carr is a phenomenal leader. And obviously, we spoke about him being able to get that team to the playoffs despite all the adversity that they went through last year. And they're getting a lot of those pieces back. I think when I look at the Chargers, granted they added a lot on paper, but it's just on paper. Last year they had talent on defense and they couldn't stop shit run on against the run. Like they couldn't stop nothing. They were terrible defensively, and they had a defensive head coach. You know, to bad clock management.
They were
Also
bad. I think they were dead last against the run, the Chargers.
yeah, they were 31-32 against the run. So they haven't shown me anything to say that they're just going to improve. And to factor in, you have a whole bunch of guys that even if they're stars, they have health issues. Usually, you don't get many injuries out of J.C. Jackson, but Khalil Mack at this point in his career has his injury history has gone up and up. Joey Bosa has a very extensive injury history, and the list goes on. They just have so many. Derwin James has an injury history. He's missed essentially 2 years out of his career with injuries.
True.
So it's just, to me, I think they're going off of because you have big names that, they're just going to be better. And to me, football doesn't work that way. And especially you got to factor in, it's one thing that they have the head coach and the foundation. They don't have the head coach and the foundation. So you got Staley, who's still trying to prove himself as a head coach. And you have a young team with injury-prone players at key positions. I just think Oakland is the better team, the better established team right now. It'll still be competitive, so I can see
you're more confident right now in Josh McDaniel than you are in
100%. I think Josh McDaniels he's won so much in this league, and he's gotten the opportunity to sit and watch one of the greatest, if not the greatest, to ever do it. And what I liked about Josh McDaniels, when he came out in his opening press conference about his miscues and his failures during that Denver tenure. And he said he tried to do too much. He said, I tried to be Bill Belichick. I'm not Bill Belichick. I'm Josh McDaniels, and I'm going to do things my way. And I'm going to utilize my staff, and I'm not going to try to do too much and put too much on my plate. So he's very self-aware, and he has an understanding of what he did wrong. And usually coaches, especially coaches that have the potential to be great, usually do great their second go round. It's happened with a lot of guys. So Josh McDaniels could be the next one in that line. He's easily a better coach than Brandon Staley. I mean, I don't think we would sit here and argue that. Um, and it's just, to me, it's not enough of a talent differential to say that the Chargers are better. So I'm gonna take the Raiders. I'm gonna go 24-20. Right. I think it'll be pretty damn close. But ultimately, the Raiders will edge them out because they're the more mentally tough team.
Um, I do think this will be a close game as well. And call me crazy, but I think I'm kind of bought in. I think Justin Herbert, he has no excuses this year. He's got to get this team to the playoffs, barring injury. Um, I think they're easily in the toughest division in football. Um, I don't know. I just think at home, I think the Chargers pull this one off in a close one, but I'm gonna go Chargers 24, Raiders 20. So I guess I would take the Chargers and the points. The Chargers minus 3.5. I would take the Chargers and the points. I'm gonna go 24-20. 24-20 Chargers. I think I think the Chargers defense makes a play. Whether it's Mac or Bosa, I think somebody on that line makes a play. They force one fumble or something. Somebody makes the play, and that's the difference in the game. And so I'm gonna go Chargers 24, Raiders 20. They probably split their meets this year. This division is gonna beat up on each other.
They are. They are.
They're probably a couple weeks when they go to Las Vegas. Las Vegas probably smacks them. This division is gonna be crazy, and there's gonna be a 8-9 win team in this division that just doesn't make the playoffs. I could see all four. I could see them getting 3 teams into the playoffs. I can see all 4 of these teams with winning records. I can see the 4th place team at 9-8. So it's really going to be a toss up. All right, 2 more games. The primetime game, one that I'm sure you've been waiting to get to, is next here. Tampa Bay at the Dallas Cowboys. This is the Sunday night game, primetime game. A repeat of opening week last year, I believe, because I think last year, Dallas went to Tampa Bay that Thursday night. So, kind of a repeat of last year with Tampa Bay going into Dallas. This game is really a toss up. The Buccaneers are favored minus 1.5, so it's really like a you pick 'em. Obviously, we know. I told you before. Tampa Bay probably coming into training camp. Tampa Bay probably, excuse me. Tampa Bay probably would have been my Super Bowl favorite in the NFC until they had all of these injuries on the offensive line. And I really, really think that that's going to be a big deal losing Ryan Jensen and the other linemen. They leave me right now, but I really think that that's going to be a really, really, really big deal losing some of these linemen. I still think that they'll obviously get double-digit wins, 11 or 12 wins, but I think ultimately they're going to have a few more troubles on the O-line than they probably would have liked to. I think this game will be really, really something else for them. I think Michael Parsons is coming. Obviously, on the other edge, his name's leaving me now, but I mean, obviously they got some edge rushers, and I mean, I think Dallas is going to be coming after them. I think they're going to taste blood. I think that they'll have in mind what happened last season and the effort that they put up last season, and the fact that it took Tampa Bay to make a last possession drive. It took Tom Brady to beat Tom Brady in order to beat them even last year, and now they're at home. I think Dallas Cowboys and their wide receiver core does worry me. With that being said, before I give my pick, you got the Buccaneers minus 1.5. What do you think about this game?
I think that's a fair point differential, a fair spread. Tampa Bay minus 1.5. I think Dallas can win, uh, this is going to be a very evenly matched game because both teams have lost
Mm-hmm.
a lot, very important pieces. Obviously we know Dak Prescott lost Tyron Smith for most of the season, if not all of it. Earliest he could be back is maybe December or something like that. Um, and Tom Brady lost both his center and starting right guard, right? Which anyone that knows Tom Brady, he hates pressure up the middle. That's not his
Jensen
thing.
and Stenny, right? Was it Stenny? And Stenny, I
Exactly.
couldn't. I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on in my head
So
today, but yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
So
then Marpet retired, so he's lost three
exactly,
linemen from last year.
exactly. So there's going to be some struggles there, even outside of what he's dealing with off the field. Um, I guess for me to keep it very simple, I think it's going to come down to it's going to be more of a defensive game, and you're going to see what defense makes the better play. Dallas, in my opinion, will take a step forward defensively this year, and I think that Michael Parsons is a defensive player on the field between the two teams. Um, and to me that speaks volumes because Shaq Barrett is good, and David, you know, David was it David Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
David yeah is pretty damn good at self linebacker from LSU,
Levante
and
David.
Levante David is great too. But I think that that's going to be the difference. It's going to be a very tight game. I got Dallas 23-20, just based off of what the things they'll do defensively. Offensively, I think it'll be a struggle and an uphill battle for them because Tyler Smith, the rookie, will be starting at left tackle. So don't be surprised to see Todd Bowles throw a buffet of different blitz packages and stuff at that left side and see how they pick it up. But once again, I say this all the time. It pays to have a Zeke in the backfield who is an exemplary pass blocker. And as a matter of fact, when you watched them last year, they did a lot of blitzing, and Zeke was very influential. If Zeke doesn't make his blocks, Dak isn't getting. Dak threw for about 400 or 500 yards. He doesn't get some of those passes off. So
Right.
don't be surprised if you see them use him a lot more in that role. And they'll utilize obviously Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb. They'll move those guys around, and we'll see where they can get. Dalton Schultz may have a big game, so it's going to be a fun game. I think that Tampa Bay, the loss of Gronk can't be discounted because he was a safety blanket. Now
Mm-hmm.
they're going to probably do a lot more spread because all their strength is in the wide receiver core with with Mike
Mike
Evans,
Evans and
Chris
Julio
Godwin,
Jones, Chris
yeah, Chris
Godwin.
Godwin,
Mm-hmm.
Russell Gage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where their strength is. So they may do more spread stuff, but once again, they got to be careful because they can easily leave themselves susceptible to pass rush.
To the rush.
And Micah Parsons, Dan Quinn's going to be creative and move him everywhere. So don't be surprised if
Mm-hmm.
you see him blitz up the middle, off both edges, from the nickel spot. Like he's going to do everything. So that's what it is. I think it's going to come down to when you have to look at who are the players that are exemplary that can take a team over the top. I think Michael Parsons is just that much better than everybody else defensively. So I think he'll make that one or two plays that helps them win the game. Barely.
Um, believe it or not, I'm with you, man. I think the pass rush, the combination of Michael Parsons, and
DeMarcus
God,
Lawrence.
DeMarcus Lawrence. God dog it. I couldn't. You knew what I was trying to say.
It's been a
I
day.
think the combination of Michael Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and the rush and the pressure that they're going to be able to get, I think that's what's going to make the difference in this game. I do think it's going to be a really close game. I still think Tampa Bay ultimately they'll win 11 or 12 games. They'll figure out as the season goes along, they'll figure some things out as far as on the offensive line and they'll get things clicking. Um, I still have my worries about the Dallas Cowboys and especially their wide receiver core. However, for Sunday night in Jerry's world, I do think that the Cowboys pull this one off. Um, the Buccaneers are favorite minus 1.5. I think the Cowboys pull this one off, so I'm gonna go Cowboys. I'm gonna go Cowboys 26-23. I think they get a field goal, and I think DeMarcus Lawrence, Michael Parsons. I think they get to Tom Brady late on the last possession or something, and they, force a four and out. And I think Dallas wins it Sunday night, and then all you and your fellow Cowboy fans are gonna go berserk about the Cowboys this year. And this is our year. And I'm down here in
Nah,
Dallas, and I'm gonna have to hear all that
nah,
nonsense.
nah. They're
But no,
not
I
going.
honestly, I do think Dallas wins this game Sunday night though. 23-20. I'm sorry, 26-23.
26, 23.
Last but not least, the Monday night game. Another very interesting one. We got the Denver Broncos at the Seattle Seahawks. So we got Russell Wilson Monday night going back to Seattle, a place where he spent all his career, won a Super Bowl, got to two, a place where he was the franchise guy, and now he's going back there, opening opening Monday night for the season. The Broncos are favored. Broncos -6. Um, I don't
37.
know. I think that might be a little low, but I'm gonna
30,
hear from
30,
you first.
30 to 7.
30-7.
I
I
think I
listen
think this could I think this could get quite ugly because
real soon.
real soon because I mean
And I think Seattle named Geno Smith their starting quarterback.
even though he played some quality ball, his best quality ball in his career last year, and Russell Wilson said, but I mean, shit, outside of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, granted, Rashad Penny has been looking a lot better. You know, I'm a big Rashad Penny fan,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, they're going up against arguably the most complete roster in the National Football League. Denver had the number 3 defense in the whole league last year. Number 2, number 3
Mm-hmm.
defense. You know, and then now we're looking at what they've added offensively. They still got Jerry Jeudy. They still got Cortland Sutton. They still got KJ Hamler. You know, and then you got this mean running back tandem of Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, and then Russell
Mm-hmm.
Wilson. So you're putting him in the best situation he's ever been in. And the
Pretty
crazy
much.
part is Seattle's offensive line is so bad that Denver's offensive line, who's probably above average or slightly above average, is better.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in a bet all around better situation. The only question mark you have is a head coach with Nathaniel Hackett. But the truth is Pete Carroll doesn't have enough talent over there. See, he knows he doesn't have enough talent over there to truly threaten a team like Denver.
Clearly
Once
a
again,
rebuild. He's clearly
yeah. So
in the market in next year's draft as well.
exactly. So I think this one could get out of hand very fast. I'm going to go 30 to 7. Don't be surprised if it's more, but I think this is going to be a very, very big one for Denver. They do too much. They do too many things on both sides of the ball for them to go and play Seattle, and I mean, not beat that team by a significant margin. So I'm going to go 37.
I agree. I think Russell Wilson is going to do wonders this season for Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. One of, if not both of those guys, are going to go over 1,000 yards. And I think they may both be looking at career years this year, all because of the
Oh, yeah.
impact that Russell Wilson will have on that team. As you mentioned, I mean, they're bringing a top 5 defense already. Seattle's just a bad team. Seattle and Houston, I think, will probably compete for the number 1 pick in next year's draft. Like we got the Broncos favored by 6. If I'm a bettor, I'm taking the Broncos and the points, and I'm not thinking twice about it. Since you said 30 to 7, once again, you know I gotta one up you, so I'm gonna say 31 to 7. Okay. But yeah, this one could get ugly. Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson will probably throw for a couple touchdowns. The running back tandem of Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, they'll probably get, over 100, 125 combined, rushing yards. They'll probably get a tub or two. They may get a defensive touchdown. This one's going to get ugly. I hope that Seattle and the fans there really give Russell Wilson the respect and appreciation that he deserves and that he's earned.
He gave a lot to that city.
He gave a hell of a lot to that city, and I hope they welcome him back with open arms. But as far as this game, it's going to get ugly. So, y'all, you said 30 to 7. I'll say 31 to 7. Denver Broncos.
Right. So we're definitely in agreement with that. So I mean, hey, that's the picks for this week. Obviously, look, we'll move through next week's a little faster. Obviously, because this is
Oh
week
yeah,
one and there's so many unknowns, and we want to definitely dive into the nooks and crannies and talk about the over and under. But it's going to be a really fun week one. Obviously,
it is.
you saw me and him disagree on some things. Uh, I think the Raiders are going to win. I think Carolina's going to win. Like there are a few teams that I really am confident in. I think the Giants are going to win. But we'll definitely see what happens. We'll revisit next Tuesday, right? Because we got to watch the Monday
Yes,
night game.
sir. Yes,
So
sir.
we'll
Please don't
definitely
forget, people. We'll be on Tuesday next week. Tuesday.
Tuesday next week. Yeah. So we'll do that, and we'll have to do some college football recap as well since we didn't do it this time, just
Oh
in
yeah.
preparation for week one. So a lot of great stuff going on. I think the Clemson Georgia Tech game is on right now, and Clemson is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 24-10, but man, I mean, they just look so
2014. Who?
average.
Clemson. Clemson.
Clemson's
2014
up, but
Clemson.
I mean, Jesus Christ, DJ Ukulele. I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback prospect be so overrated and just look so average. But another
Mhm.
story for another day.
And then this Saturday, you got Bama and Texas. So that should be a pretty good one there.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of
But
fun.
yeah, once again, guys, we'll be back on next Tuesday, and we'll be posting on our social media outlets and everything. Just reminding everyone, please go ahead and subscribe to the Rooted in Sports Instagram page. Once again, that's just simply at Rooted in Sports. Um, Obviously, we got the Kenny got the break room breakdown. What you just dropped an episode last week, right?
They just dropped the episode, yeah, last week or the week before last. Um, it's a yeah, pretty good episode, short and sweet. Some NFL talk, so definitely tune in for that one. And then we'll have some more episodes, some good stuff coming to you guys this month as well. But that's Break Room Breakdown. Definitely look forward to Rooted in Sports community every Saturday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Twitter Spaces. It gets down and dirty. Guys get grimy. They argue.
For
But it's
real,
all good
for
fun.
real.
But it's all good fun. We kiss and
Seriously.
make up at the end.
Word. And yeah, man, go out and watch some football. This is football season is in full effect. Go ahead Saturday, get into some college ball, and then Thursday, watch the Thursday night game, and then Sunday, go ahead and get you a few brews. You know what I'm saying? Get you
This is the
fire up the
greatest
grill,
time.
whatever you want to do, and get
This is the
into week
greatest time.
one of the NFL season because it is going to be phenomenal. Some good football being played. And yeah, we will see you guys next week.
Most definitely.
Um,
It's been
as,
fun.
as always, much love. God bless. See y'all next week.
Have fun, guys.